graduated from high school in 1942, Altus, Oklahoma. And the war had broken out during my senior year. My oldest brother, Philip, had gone through the air cadet training back before the war and had his wings and was already a pilot. My brother Francis, just older than I, he had joined the National Guard and was called up to active duty. And he later on went through OCS and joined the paratroopers. And of course, I was the third boy, and I graduated from high school in '42, and I took a test to be able to get in the Air Cadet program, as you had to have 2 years of college or take the test. And so I was called up to active duty in January of '43. And I went through basic training and pre-flight. And I went to Brady, Texas for primary training. And as I graduated from primary flight school flying PT-19 Fairchilds, they changed Brady from a primary school to a basic school. So I stayed at Brady and took my basic training there on BT-13s. And graduating from basic training, I was sent to Frederick, Oklahoma for advanced flight training on what they called a UC-78 Cessna, twin-engine plane. When I graduated from flight school, I went to Salt Lake City and was where they were putting air crews together, and I was put on a B-24 as a co-pilot. Went to Tucson, Arizona, Davis-Monthan Field for a month or two training, and then went over to overseas where I was assigned to the 742nd Squadron, 455th Bomb Group, and the 15th Air Force, stationed at Cerignola, Italy, Cerignolia. I got there, and the first pilots at that time were having to fly 5 missions as a co-pilot before they got to fly their own crew. And my first pilot that I was assigned to was shot down on his first mission as a co-pilot, so they put my crew with a lead pilot, George Crum. And our crew flew with him for about the next 8 or 10 missions. And at that time, the Bombardier and Navigator couldn't fly with us because they weren't lead Bombardiers or Navigators. On about the 3rd mission, the plane my Bombardier was flying in, was flying on our wing, was shot down, and my original Bombardier was killed. Well, after this, well, I was assigned as our crew was taken over by a fellow Okie named George Underwood, who was half Cherokee Indian, and we flew about the next 10 or 15 missions with him. I was flying as a co-pilot. After probably about my 22nd mission, I was put out as a first pilot and given my own crew, and flew with them a while, and then they made me kind of a checkout pilot for the new crews coming over, and I would take the new crews, and the first pilot would fly as my co-pilot, and I would fly with that crew, and when I come back, I had to give the operation officer a report on how they were and all that. That's the way I finished up my mission. Just before I became a first pilot, we had been up in, I don't remember now what the target was, it's up in Czechoslovakia somewhere. We had had some damage, and I didn't think we'd be able to get across the Adriatic Sea. And I wanted to bail out, but I was the only one of the crew that wanted to do that. So we started out, and we made it as far as the coast of Italy, and we barely landed the B-24 on the beach because we was out of fuel. We didn't know at the time whether we were behind the German lines or the American lines, but it turned out we were behind the American lines. So